There you are now. Welcome back to the workshop. So on today's episode, we are going to get this car ready for racing. June has come around rather rapid and I am in no way ready for this car to go racing. So a few things have to happen in order for it to be ready for next weekend. But today's main task is going to be to massage out this dent in the wing. So this dent happened when the car was in storage over the winter last year. And unfortunately, we had a bit of an incident where a spot welder fell from a shelf and hit the corner of the wing. Look, these things happen. It is what it is. We need to just get it repaired. We were very lucky, thankfully, that where it landed is where the stripe is going to be. So all we have to do is get this dent back out, get the panels straight, and when a stripe is put back on, everything will be okay. Checking down the bonnet shut line here, and it looks like it might have just ever so slightly creased out the I suppose the reveal line here along the side of the wing. So we're going to have to check that, because otherwise it's going to look off with the bonnet. So that is something that we have to do. There's other bits and pieces to be done to the car, but mostly just race prep stuff, nut and bolt check. It needs a good polish, and we need to just make sure that all our settings are right, our ignition timing and stuff like that. So first order of operations is to be able to get access to both sides of this wing and be able to massage it out. I've been contemplating as to whether to try and get the dent out with the sticker on or with the sticker off. And I'm kind of going to try first with the sticker on, because I have this foolish notion in my head that it might protect the paint a little bit underneath, the sticker holding it together and whatever. And then, we'll let the guy that's going to do the graphics then decide what the best way to take that sticker off is, and hopefully not bring all the paint with it. So I think we'll get the headlamp out, we'll get the grille off, and we'll get the wheel off, and then we'll be able to actually get in here and get at that dent from both sides and work out what we're going to do. One of the great things about a race car is they have what's called droop stops, which is basically to stop the wheel drooping a lot in the arch. So if you look here, you'll see that the wheel has only dropped a very small amount and then it's hit the droop stop. On a road going Mini, what you would see is the wheels hang down, so you have to jack the car really far up in order to actually get the wheel off the ground. But on a race car, we've got droop stops, so it just helps us out and makes that a little bit easier. Now, always use an axle stand, guys. No matter how short a period of time you're going to put a car up in the air. And I know it's said a million times, but you can't actually say it often enough. And you have to keep remembering and reminding people, because we all, unfortunately, take chances. And, cars dropping on people, it's end game. Okay, so I want to show you something interesting about the wheels on this car. Which is a modification that we do on our race cars to add a bit of security. So you'll see these wheel nuts look unusual. So the rim we're using on this race car is a 13-inch Minolite 13J rim. And these would have originally come with a taper wheel nut fitment. So the hole going through here had a 40-degree taper that the wheel nut would fit in, and that's what centered the wheels. Taper wheels are not a good option for race cars, because with the massive forces that go on with these incredibly grippy tires and the high-speed cornering that we do in the cars, it can cause the wheel to move on the taper, which relaxes the tension on the wheel nut, and the wheel nuts can come off. And back in the day, you've seen a lot of race cars losing their wheels, and they were generally, race Minis losing their wheels, and they were generally Minis that would have been taper wheel nut style. There is some techniques you can use to come over this, and if you remember back to the day, a lot of wheels or a lot of race cars in the 60s and 70s would have had central locking wheels, and that was the reason for it, because the central locking wheel one big nut that went on, and then a sort of a clip, a bit like an oar clip, went through to actually stop the nut from backing off. The modification we've done is we have set up these wheels in our milling machine, and we on-center board all of the wheels to accept a shanked wheel nut. So that's a shanked wheel nut. And basically that wheel nut fits dead centrally and dead tight into that bore that we put in the wheel. I'll show you from this side, it probably makes a bit more sense. So you can see the way the shanked wheel nut fits in there. Now, unfortunately, the shanked wheel nut will be way too long because of the design of these wheels. They're not designed for shanked wheel nuts. So what we did was we machined up a spacer, an aluminium collar, if you will. And very specifically aluminium because, well, it's light, and also the fact that it's indifferent. The expansion rate of aluminium is, when aluminium gets hot, is much greater than steel. So when the brakes heat up these rims, which they essentially will do, they'll heat up the disc brakes, getting as hot as they do in a race scenario, will heat up the hub, and the hub will in turn heat up the wheel nuts. If the aluminium, it has a higher rate of expansion than the stud, then the aluminium effectively makes your wheel nut tighter. So the hotter it gets, the tighter your wheel nut gets, and the safer your wheel is, the more likely your wheel is to stay on the car. When you use indifferent metals like that, we use them in engineering all the time as ways of giving ourselves a bonus. If you used a steel shank on here, and these are inevitably stainless steel wheel nuts, the rate of expansion will be different between steel and stainless steel, and you could effectively have a loosening effect. We use the aluminium spacer. This is HE30 aluminium, which is a reasonably work hardened aluminium, and then a stainless steel wheel nut. And there is a great deal of difference between the rate of expansion of the aluminium and the nut, effectively making the wheel tighter. So just an interesting modification that we do, and it just makes the cars a little bit safer on track, and you know, reduces the chances of us losing a wheel. Okay, people have laughed at this for a while, and I'm going to tell you the story. Okay, people have laughed at this for a while, and I'm going to tell you the story behind it. The grille on this race car is genuinely held on with 2 single cable ties. And when we were building this car, we were so excited to see what the face of it looked like. We had all the livery and the bumper had just arrived, and we were really excited to see what it was going to look like, what the face would look like. And a mate of mine was helping me out. He's in fact the guy who races the car, Neil. He's the driver. He basically put the grille on with these 2 cable ties, and it remained like that for quite a while until the car was ready to go out for its first race. And I said to Neil, oh, I ordered the proper clips to go in here to put the screws in. And he said, well, why do you want to put the screws in? And I said, well, I don't know. And his reply, and I said, well, it just has cable ties on. And his reply to me was, because race car. So we left them like that, and we campaigned it for a couple of different race events, and the grille has stayed attached. So ever since, I've been only attaching the grille with 2 cable ties, because it does make it relatively handy to, you know, slot the grille out afterwards, or to get in there if you need to get out a cable or whatever it is. So I suppose it made a bit of sense. When he said it to me first, I remember thinking to myself, oh, okay, well, you know, I suppose it's a lesson in, don't do something a particular way because that's the way it has always been done. Do it because it's the right thing to do at the time. So we had a little bit of a mishap actually as well at one stage with this car. I had a fuel line off another car, would you believe, burst. I had a car in this way and the fuel line off the other car burst, and we had a very small fire. Now, luckily, because we have really good quality firefighting equipment here, I was able to get the fire out almost instantly, but we got a bit of smoke damage. So while I'm in here, we can do a little bit of polishing. In fact, the fire didn't actually get near the car at all. It was just, there was a pool of fuel on the floor that was on fire, and you know that when you burn petrol, that black smoke goes everywhere. So yeah, that needs a little bit of a clean off, but yeah, sure, it's all part of it. Let's get this headlamp out now. there is a bit of a trick to getting mini headlamps out. I suppose on this car it's great because they're not wired up. They should be. The wiring is there for them, as you can see, but it's not connected up to the relay controls yet. So you'll notice how that came out really quick. So on a later type plastic headlamp bowl like this, the way the headlamp is held in is you've got sort of two slots, one here and one here, and you've got slotted screws. These are the adjustment for allowing you to focus the headlamp. And the way the headlamp sits into them is it just slots into the two slots, and then you've got one single retaining screw down here. So once you take that screw out, the headlamp rotates clockwise out of those two slots, and you're left with the headlamp in your hand. Yep, it has proper seal beams, like it should have. The main headlamp bowl, just some stainless steel screws into some clips in the back side, and that's the OE way these were fitted. Some of them were done with, they had pop rivets in them, but I'm not sure if that was ever a factory thing, but I have taken a lot of minis apart over the years that I would have imagined were still with their factory headlamp bolts that had pop rivets in it. But anytime you order a headlamp fitting kit from, say, the likes of one of the big suppliers like Mini Spares, they always send you these type screws with little clips for the back. So if anybody knows, was pop rivets ever a factory thing, or was it always screws and just some people didn't have screws and they used pop rivets instead? I'd be interested to know. If anyone knows, stick it in the comment section below, let us know. Alrighty, so with the headlamp bowl out now, at least now we're in a good position to get at the inside here and have a look. So the first thing I want to do is run a straight edge down along this wing here, just to see have we had any intrusion. But actually, as I sight it with my eye now, I don't think it did push it out, but we'll just check with a straight edge. For bodywork on a car, I can see that the profile is such that it's correct. So the profile up here at the front of the wing, it should curve away towards the corner of the headlamp, and you know, looking at that, that's exactly what's happening, just there and curving away. What I was worried about was that I might see sort of a push out here. I might see that the metal had been distorted by the dent and was pushed out, and I'd see a gap, or this would be rocking on it, but it looks dead straight there. So luckily, I think we completely got away with that. So I think it's just a matter of massaging up this dent and getting the shape back into the wing. I just take a moment to thank everybody who is new to the channel. You're all most welcome here. Have a look around, have a look at some of our other videos, and if you like what you see, maybe give us a subscribe. To all my regulars, thank you so much for all your patience. I know I've been a little bit slow in the comment section. I am doing my best to sort of keep up, but you guys are writing comments faster than I can answer them. I do read all your comments, and thank you very much, and I will try and keep answering all your questions and replying as much as I possibly can. And thank you for your patience. I am there, and I am reading, and I am listening. Also, thank you very much to everybody who has donated. That is really great, and as I said, I hope you're enjoying some of the new footage and the new angles. Next weekend is going to be a very exciting weekend for us. It is our first day out racing, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So what we're going to try and do is bring you along with us. That is the plan. And show you some of the day's events. Okay? Billy is shouting help because unfortunately, or fortunately, it will be his first day in the field with the camera. So let's look forward to next weekend to see how that's going to get on and what footage we get. But we will endeavour, as I said, to bring you along with us. You will have to bear with us because it is going to be our first time shooting in the field, and we will get better and better the more we do it. Like our videos here in the shop, you know, we'll learn from every experience, but I'd love you guys to come along on that learning experience with us and enjoy the fun that we get to have in these little race cars. By the way, to anybody who is watching the video, please don't forget to hit that like button down below. It really does help us. And as I said, please keep commenting. I love reading all your comments. I love getting the chance to have a chat with you. I know, as I said, I'm a little bit slow answering them, but I will try and pick up on it and get there. Also, very exciting, Billy has been beavering away on the merchandise, and I think that website is going to go live within the next couple of days. We're not going to particularly do a video about it. I might just pop on live for a couple of minutes just to let everybody know. We'll put a post in the Instagram, and we'll put a post in the community section so everybody will know. But that's just going to happen over the next few days. We're literally just waiting for a few more bits to sort out. In case anybody is wondering, by the way, why it takes so long to get these merchandise sites up and working. There is easy options that you can just go straight forward to, but the way we're trying to do it is to give you guys the best options we possibly can at the highest quality we possibly can. So it means, believe it or believe it not, individually working out shipping rates for every single item, for every different place it's going to go. And you know, when you have 30 or 40 items plus, you know, God knows how many countries you have to work it out for, and then, you know, program that all into your website. It does take some time, and we do this, in fairness, in our spare time. So thank you so much for everybody for having the patience. But exciting news, it is nearly there. Okay, so getting this dent out, start with the rough and ready and get as much of the big stuff out as we can. And already you'll see that the worst of it is starting to come out. We have so in just that little short time there now, we're starting to get some shape back into that wing already. So I think leaving the sticker on actually was a good idea, because it seems to have saved a lot of that. So what we're going to end up with here is we're going to end up with three things. We're going to end up with a dip like we have here. We're going to end up with creases like we have. We've got a crease there and we've got a crease there. And we're also going to end up with high spots. And body work and panel beating is all about trying to shrink and stretch steel. So when the steel gets hit by the impact, whatever it is that causes the dent in the first place, the steel stretches, it becomes longer. That's how the dent happens. Well, it may stretch or it may deform. So that's why we were checking that edge along there, was to see whether or not it had deformed. And it hadn't deformed, which meant that the only way that that dent could happen was the steel stretched. So in order to shrink that, there is tools and equipment for this, a shrinking hammer and heating it to get it to shrink and that. But because this dent, well, for two things. One, it's going to be underneath a sticker, and second of all, the dent itself is not a huge area. I think we're going to get away with just some basic panel beating. What we'll do is we'll keep tapping away here until we get, I suppose, as much of the major stuff out, and then we'll start planishing it, which means then we'll have to take the sticker off and we'll have to work that area to planish it down to try and bring as many of the areas into the same height as possible. And then finally, any of the lows that we can't get out, we'll put just a bare skim of filler over it and then just sand it in, and it will repair that dent perfectly. You might wonder, why would we not be able to get a low out? We may not be able to get a low out because there might be a crease beside it, and if we tapped out the low, the crease would become higher. The problem there is obviously if you have metal that's high and filler that's low, if you keep sanding on that metal, you're going to put a hole there. So oftentimes the sacrifice in situations like this is that you have to leave the odd little low spot and bring it back up to the right height, so that these creases are below the surface, basically they're below the level. And that's why you see me with a little aluminium block like this. I like to use an aluminium block for taking out dints like this because it allows me to see sort of the surface finish. The aluminium is softer than the steel, so it's unlikely to put scratches or dents in the steel, and it just gives me something nice to tap against and get an idea where I am. So you can already see the highs that have come in. Now, how we get a high out is pretty easy. We wire tapping from the underside in, and to get the high out, what we'll do is we get the aluminium on the inside this time, wherever that high spot is, so we can just feel it with our hands, and then we can just come in with our hammer and we can you can hear that note change. So it's hollow at the start because the metal is sitting like this on top of the metal of the wing is sitting like this on the aluminium, and that hollowness you hear is the gap. But as we start tapping it, we bring the metal in contact with the top of the aluminium and we start to get that sound change. Something like an aluminium bar here, a piece of round bar, works well then for profile because the wing is curved. So if you keep tapping at it with a square edge like that, well, you're going to put an actual square profile into it. So this is great for just getting the basics and then using something like a piece of profile. You know, bodywork experts out there will have tools for this job. They'll have specific pieces of equipment, but here in my shop, you guys will know that slowly is better. And you'll know I like to just work with what I have, or what tools I have. And I did all the metal work myself on this car. Every bit of the steel work you see on this car I did. I had a really good guy who helped me do the filler and paint work, but all of the metal work is my own doing. So I'm used to working on it. So we have a bubble there now, and this is one of those situations where we're going to now have to take off this sticker because it's going to start confusing the situation and it's going to make it hard for me to see what the next thing I need to do is. So I'm just in here with a nice sharp Stanley blade and I'm just cutting out a patch here, just big enough for the minute to allow me to repair this dent. Might wonder why I'm not cutting it all off, why I'm just not taking the whole sticker off, but the way I'm thinking about this is the longer I leave this sticker on here, the more of the wing it's protecting while I work. So, you know, if I was doing this on a painted car, I'd probably mask this area off. So by me leaving this sticker on, well, it's acting a bit like masking tape and it's helping to protect the wing. And it means then that when the job is done and we're happy with the result, that we can get the whole sticker off, obviously, and get the sticker replaced. Heating these with a hairdryer, I believe, makes these stickers come off really easily. But now we're getting to see some of the fun. So we knew the paint was going to be damaged under here, so we're not worried about that. But we're getting to see where obviously a little drop of water has gotten in where the paint, and that'll just be moisture in the air. You know, we're in a very humid climate here in Ireland, and when raw steel gets exposed to the air, moisture gets in there. But the good news is it doesn't look like it's traveled anywhere else, so that's good. At least it means that, you know, when we bring this to the painter, he will only have a small area to deal with in order to get this wing back to its former glory. So we're actually doing pretty good here. We have a lot of the dents out. I have got a little low here that I want to get out. And we've actually avoided we've got most of the creases out, which is brilliant. Very happy with that. Okay, I think we'll get in here with the DA now and just take out this little bit of broken paint so that we can actually see what shape we're dealing with. Okay, so that gives us a good idea now where the edge of the cracked paint is. So those DAs are a wonderful piece of kit. I have just got a Scotch-Brite disc on it, just a coarse abrasive Scotch-Brite disc. And what that allows me to do is just feather out the edge of the paint so that I can actually see where any of the paint was chipped and cracked. I can see where that is, and now I can get to see the shape. One of the best ways of feeling shape or sorting out shape on bodywork is to rely on your touch, how it feels to you. And I can feel now along here high spots and low spots with the sensation in the palm of my hand. And any painters worth their salt, that's exactly how they'll show you to do that. Now, what I'm changing over to here is what they call a rawhide hammer. And, you know, bodywork experts will have a multitude of tools for doing jobs like this, and they will be much better equipped than somebody like me. But Minis are old school steel cars that I don't want to say they're rough and ready. That wouldn't be the right way of putting it. But they're cars that should be possible to work on, like a Land Rover or like any of those vehicles, with basic equipment. So rather than, you know, going and getting all the fancy planishing hammers and all that sort of stuff, we leave that to the bodywork experts afterwards. But we try and leave the body in a situation where it's as good as we can get it. And the rawhide hammer is lovely because it has give in it. It has a bit of softness in it. So it'll stretch the metal back out again in a few different places where I have a little dent here that I want to bring up. Now this is one of these areas where we really don't want to go much more here before we're going to start affecting and having a high spot. So this is an area where a very light skim of filler is the way to go. I did a repair actually here before, and you can just see the outline of it in the paint. There was a little hole here which I welded up. So amazing. What's the chances of that that it would get hit in the same spot that we did a repair before.
It's no use, Ted. You'll never get it absolutely right.
So it's always slowly catchy monkey with bodywork. Gotta take your time and bring the shape back into the panel. Okay, give that one more little rub. Okay, we're very close now to as much as I want to do with this, and I'm going to let the painter do the rest. I think we might have just a very slight high spot along where that repair was. So what I'm going to do is just give it a quick guide coat of primer so that I can tell where that high spot is, and then I think we will be pretty much done. So I have put a little bit of primer on here to act as a guide coat for me, and I'm just using this sandpaper as flat as I can to just see the profile in this wing. Now I'm going to get Billy to give you a close-up of that so that you can see. So anywhere that's shiny is a high spot, and anywhere that is grey, that has the grey of the primer, is the low spot. That's called a guide coat. Now people often use black as a guide coat to give themselves an idea. So we've one of two things happening here. These greys are low or these silvers are high. But the fact that we've guided ourselves off of the body where there wasn't a dint already tells us that those areas are low. So what we need to do now is just to massage those areas up ever so slightly, and this is where gentleness is the key in this situation. So those areas are starting to come up now. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. There's a couple of little low spots in a few little places, but they are now what we would call, I suppose they're near enough micro, and I'll be totally happy for the painter to take those out just with a very light skim of filler to bring that up. There's no major high spot, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to make sure that, like I said earlier on, that any of the lows stayed low and the profile is there and the shape is in it now. I can feel it with my hand. We get a sticker redone, we get the new livery redone, that painted, and that dint will be fine. The only last thing I want to do is I just want to throw the bonnet on now, just to make sure that that shut line is the way it was when I put it in there in the first place, and then that job will be complete. Okay, I'm very happy with that. The shut line is as it should be. It's nice and tight, and it's even symmetrical the whole way along. It matches the bonnet. Very, very happy. The Dent has come out now, and as I said, there is a tiny little bit of bodywork left to be done there, but it's best, for me anyway, to leave that kind of stuff to the experts. What I like to try and do is, I like to try and get my steel work as good as I possibly can, to leave the minimal amount of filler work to do for the painter, so that I know I'm dealing with steel. It is for that very reason that when that dent happened, that it was so easily repairable here by me. If this car had a lot of filler on it and something had hit the wing like that, we'd be dealing with massive chunks of paint coming off and a very difficult repair. Whereas you've seen, because we had good metal work to start with, the repair was reasonably easy afterwards. Race cars need to be like that. Race cars get bumped in races. There's no point in going racing if you don't expect that your car will get a bump at some stage. It is with that mindset that I built this car, and I made the metalwork as good as I possibly could from the very start, meaning that repair will be something a little bit easier in the past. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along for that little look into, you know, a mindset about bodywork and how to do it, and I will see you guys hopefully on the next episode.